Welcome back to part number 2 of Blockchain 104 Cryptocurrencies. In part number 1, we covered an overview of what cryptocurrencies are. Now we're going to talk about what they are technologically and economically in part number 2 of episode 104 of the blockchain series. If you haven't seen part number 1, definitely go check that out. I'll link that above. In order to understand Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, we need to understand what secures that network. What secures that network is called mining as an ancillary to the real world. Cryptocurrency ledger needs to be secured by the individuals in that network. Those users need to validate the transactions to prevent fraud. So each Bitcoin node is capable of mining, but that has been so specialized in the past 10 years that regular computer is not able to do that. You have very intricate rigs that are made to do that now, and I'll show you one here. These are Bitcoin mining rigs. So you have a number of graphics cards that are connected to the network, and those are going to be really quick in parallel processing hundreds of transactions a minute, and they're going to be pumping those out through the internet back to the system. Those miners are securing the system through a complicated series of computations and essentially guessing numbers. It's like a lottery ticket. The more lottery tickets you buy, the more likely you are to solve the problem and get rewarded for that in the currency of that cryptocurrency. And most common case, that is right now 12.5 Bitcoins per block, which is approximately every 10 seconds. That's an incentive for you as a miner to do what's in the best interest of that network. Transactions are what makes a cryptocurrency. If I pay Alice 5 Bitcoins, that is a transaction that is validated by the miners and placed in a block on that blockchain. How that works is I propose that transaction, a miner picks that transaction up as it hears it, validates that I do have those Bitcoins. If it wins that block, it then places that block on the blockchain, and then other miners are going to place their blocks on top of that, and it is secured into the blockchain. The thing that makes blockchains and a lot of other cryptography very powerful, including the internet, is asymmetric key cryptography or public-private key cryptography. It is basically my private key is tied to my public key. So if I put my public key out to the world and then I sign a transaction, I sign a message, I sign anything with that private key, it is tied to that public key. They're sure that it is me, or at least my private key, that has signed that. That's exactly how Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are able to ensure that you are using your money. Few people understand what cryptocurrencies are, but I would argue that few people actually understand what currencies, and more importantly, what money is. Cryptocurrencies exhibit a lot of properties of money, and it's interesting because it was designed to be harder or better than traditional currency and monies. The problem is that it's not used very pervasively throughout most economies. So it's very abstract to a lot of individuals. And because of that non-pervasive use, and because there aren't a lot of derivatives from Bitcoin, meaning futures and others, the price fluctuations of Bitcoin can be quite drastic because the price discovery of Bitcoin is not as quick as many of the currencies that are very heavily traded in international systems. With that as well, most would say that it is unusable as currency because the fluctuations are so quick and so prevalent that you wouldn't know how much you're actually going to be spending if you went to use it in a store. Some throughout the world would argue that it's more stable than the currencies of their local nation, as we see in some hyperinflation scenarios throughout the world. Secondarily, there are some complaints about the time that it takes to get an actual transaction through. Some ATMs, some transactions can occur instantaneously. As soon as that transaction's sent, less than a second or maybe 2 seconds max, enough miners have seen that, and if the fees are decent enough that they'll actually pick those transactions up, that can be accepted as a transaction. Sometimes individuals that are trading actually want that transaction confirmed, aka mined in a block, and that can take, for the Bitcoin network, 10 minutes, and here's a display of the other times for the other networks. That can take a little bit of time if you want. I didn't like this figure in their report. The main thing is because it's misconstrues speed for throughput. Speed is how fast my transaction gets through the network. Throughput is how many transactions I can put through the network. Essentially how big my pipe is, not necessarily how quick the transactions are moving through that pipe. So this graph, this figure, is showing the transaction throughput. Visa has approximately 24,000 transactions a second. Ethereum, approximately 20 transactions a second. Bitcoin, only approximately 7 transactions a second, which is seen as not enough to support the actual transactions of goods and services. There are second layer solutions that are added on top of it, such as Lightning, but Bitcoin more and more throughout its development is being used more as a store of value because it is going to become more expensive to get the privilege of using that very expensive pipe, if you will. Cryptocurrencies are obtained a couple different ways. The main way is going to be through an exchange, but you could also start mining that cryptocurrency and get rewarded in that. That's how the original Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are achieved, but the main way through most people is through third-party exchanges. Danger there, obviously, is that they're susceptible to hacks. Mt. Gox, MTGOX, is the largest example with their hack in approximately 2014, where they just siphoned off millions of dollars at the time, which are now worth billions of dollars. Holding of cryptocurrencies. Now that I've purchased the cryptocurrency or mined the cryptocurrency, how do I have access to that? You have that a couple of different ways. You have access in what is known as wallets. I prefer to call them keychains, but wallets is the most widely used term for it. A couple different types of wallets. The paper wallet, they say, is a QR code printed on a piece of paper. Doesn't necessarily need to be a piece of paper, and more often than not is not an actual QR code. More often than not, it is a series of 12 or 24 words that are used to derive private keys that can then be used to derive public keys. Hardware wallets are just that. They're an actual USB. Usually you have them offline, meaning not connected to the internet, that you're able to secure them, and obviously nobody's going to be able to hack into it if it's sufficiently air-gapped, meaning not connected to the internet. Online or mobile wallets, most people use because they're easy. They're there. You're going to take your phone with you. You're going to be able to use that very easily and quickly if you're trying to buy something from a store. Investing in cryptocurrencies, because the volatility, because the sheer price skyrocketing over the past 10 years, it's been a significant focus of speculative investment. And for that reason, that also compounds the price fluctuations of that currency. And some see it, for instance, in Iran, Greece back in the day when their currency was collapsing, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, as a price or a currency hedge against their local currency. They're going to invest, meaning put their money in cryptocurrency, vice put their money in their local money under the mattress, which is going to lose value faster. In this case, Bitcoin's going to gain in value. Their local currency, which is inflating at a significant rate or hyperinflating, is obviously going to lose value relatively quickly comparatively. regulating cryptocurrencies. We'll talk about that in episode number 4, part 3 of what are cryptocurrencies. I appreciate it. If you guys like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe if you're not below. And I would love some comments on what you guys want to see. Was this good? What can I do better? What would you guys like me to look at? Thank you. Appreciate it.